All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Lynette, and I am joining you from the Aquarium of the Pacific here in Long Beach. And I'm so excited to learn with you today. We're going to be exploring one of my favorite local habitats, and we'll be doing some science together. So if you're excited to do that with me, then there are some different ways that you can communicate with us. So down below, you can see that there is a phone number and an email address. You are welcome to text us any questions that you have at 562-286-1838. And then you can also email us if you'd prefer at live@lbaop.org. And I am joined in the studio by my teammate Tiffany, who's controlling all of the magic behind me. And so she will be monitoring that text and email line. So we would love to hear from you as we learn together. But like I mentioned, we're going to be learning about one of my favorite habitats. It's actually all around me right now. And we're going to be learning about marine meadows, right? Or that's what we like to call them. You might also know them as eelgrass beds, right? So seagrass in the ocean. That's what we're going to be learning about today. And I mentioned that we're going to be doing science, right? Maybe you've done science before in school, on your own, maybe just for fun. And so we'll start with talking about, what does it mean to do science? Well, scientists explore the natural world, right? And they make observations, right? Have you heard that word before? Observations? Right? What does that mean to you? How can we make observations? Well, an observation, it just means noticing. You can notice with your eyes, you could notice with your ears, right? You could even notice with your sense of smell. Today we're mostly going to use our sight, and we're going to be looking carefully at lots of different pictures and videos, and I want you to see as many details as you can. Try to notice as much as possible, right? That's what scientists are really good at. And when you notice something cool, I want you to think about it. What does that tell you? Can you learn about an animal from what you noticed? Can you form a question? Right, that's what we're going to be doing today. So actually, let's just go ahead and practice making observations, right, with this video behind me. So I'm going to step off, and I would love for you to notice as much as you can about this habitat or this home for animals. And there we have that word habitat, right? And so a habitat is a place where animals live, but every habitat is unique depending on which one you're looking at, right? So let's see if we can figure out what makes this habitat special. Let's see. Well, first off, I notice that it's pretty bright in this habitat, right? It doesn't look like it's super deep underwater, right? I can see everything really clearly. So we've got a bright habitat, and I'm noticing a lot of swaying green stuff. Do you know what that is? If it looks like grass to you, well, you're right. That is grass. It's a little different from the grass that we have on land, right? That is called eelgrass, right? Or you might call it seagrass. So just like how there's grass on land, there's grass in the ocean. And I noticed that eelgrass is swaying. So this tells me that the water's moving. There's some waves in this habitat. Let's see, what more do I notice? Ooh, I notice, actually, I can point it out right here, right, what looks like an animal living in this habitat. And it looked like a fish, and it was blending in really well. Or maybe you know a fancy science word for blending into your habitat, right? It looks like that fish was camouflaging with this habitat. So that was really cool. And then I see some bigger fish swimming around that are kind of silvery and bright colored. We'll talk about those in just a little bit, right? But just by using my eyes, I noticed that this habitat has lots of movement. It looks like there's waves, right? I think there's a lot of sunshine here because I can see everything really well. And there's lots of that eelgrass kind of swaying side to side, right? If you're watching this from home, right, you can pretend to be some eelgrass and you can sway side to side, right? So that looks like whatever that eelgrass is, it's very flexible. So actually, one thing that we're going to do as we learn today is we're going to draw a picture of this habitat, and we'll label it as we go along so that you can remember everything that we learned. So actually, let's hop over to my whiteboard and let's get started. Okay, so we are going to be drawing our marine meadow. First things first, this is an underwater habitat. So I'm going to put a little bit of water kind of right at the top. And I chose a nice bright blue because this habitat looks nice and bright to me. And I don't know if you noticed, but at the very bottom of a eelgrass bed, right, or a marine meadow, there's a lot of sand, right? And so let's add some sand to the very bottom. There wasn't very many rocks in that exhibit, so I'm not going to put any rocks. I'm just going to do a little bit of sand at the bottom. And I'll put some dots, and that's how we'll know that this is sand. And I mentioned that that habitat looked really bright to me, right? What is it that lights up a habitat? Right? There's something that we didn't necessarily see in that video, but we know is there because it was so bright, and that would be sunlight. So you know what? I'm going to add a sun. I'm going to try to sneak it in up here. Because people forget, but a habitat is not only the animals that live in a place, but it's also all of the things that are not alive that make it special. So having that sunshine is really important to our eelgrass bed. Okay, so we've got sand, we've got water, and we've got sun, right? Those are all things that are not living, right? But we have to start adding some of those living things. And I'm going to start with what gives this habitat its name, the eelgrass, right? That makes an eelgrass bed. So you know what? Let's go back to a picture or a video of our eelgrass, and let's practice really noticing some details of the eelgrass. Perfect. This is a really great picture for us to use. So I want us to look carefully at this eelgrass. Can you think of some details that you notice? Maybe some words to describe what you see? Let's see. Well, I noticed that it is bright green, right? Eelgrass is really beautiful. I think it's, such a pretty color. So it's got this bright green color, and it really does look like grass on land. And that is because it is a plant, just like grass on land, right? And so there's lots of things that look like plants in the ocean. For example, maybe when you think of an ocean plant, you might think of something like seaweed or kelp. Actually, let's see if we can get a video of that. Oh, perfect. So maybe this is what you're thinking of when you think of plants in the ocean, right? This is some giant kelp. It's really, really tall, right? And it also sways. The interesting thing is this is not a true plant, right? It is called an algae. It's similar, right? It's an organism that uses the sun to photosynthesize or to make its food. But the special thing is that algae does not have any roots, and it does not have any flowers or seeds the way plants on land has. Whereas the eelgrass, right, it is a true plant. It's pretty incredible. So this grass, I see basically what looks like these green blades, right? And each green blade is kind of like a solar panel, right? And that's the cool thing about plants, is that their leaves, right, or their blades can absorb that sunlight, turn it into delicious food for the plant, and that's what helps it grow, right? So that's amazing how they work. So they have these green blades that absorb the sun, but actually eelgrass has roots, just like a plant that you would find on land. And those roots go down into that soft, sandy bottom, right? Actually, if you think about a kelp forest, the bottom is not soft and sandy. It's actually these big boulders, lots of rocks. It's not really a friendly place for plant roots, right? Whereas eelgrass is going to be found in places that have lots of soft, fine sand so that the roots can spread out and hold on and anchor the grass down. Oh, this is a really great video. Actually, we'll talk about something else in this video, but that sandy bottom, right, is a nice place for the eelgrass roots to kind of grab hold of. So let's go ahead and add some eelgrass to our picture. So I'm going to add some eelgrass. I'm going to do lots of kind of wavy green blades that are swaying in the ocean. But they're pretty short. They're mostly by the seafloor. So let me add lots and lots of eelgrass. And that's why we like calling this habitat a marine meadow. It really is like a meadow you would find on land, right? There's lots and lots of plants. So I'm also going to write in what this is called so we can all learn about it together. So this is called eelgrass. And that's really what makes this habitat special, is this eelgrass. And we talked about how eelgrass is a real plant, so it has roots, right? And its roots need to go down into the sand. So I'm just going to draw a couple of roots so that we can remember. But just like how a land plant would have, I'm going to give our eelgrass some roots. And actually, eelgrass is a special kind of plant whose roots mostly grow side to side, right? They don't really grow super far down. And that makes sense, right? Because in the ocean, right, the waves are really pushing that sand around. So if your roots go side to side, you're probably going to have a better hold on the seafloor. So go ahead and give your eelgrass some roots so it can stay nice and safe in the sand, and so that we can remember that it's a true plant. Awesome. Okay, our habitat is starting to shape up. Right, we've got lots of eelgrass in our bed now. And we'll come back to eelgrass and talk about, why it's important. But let's fill up our habitat with some animals who live there. Okay, so maybe you noticed, right, that there's some fish swimming around. Let's see if we can get a picture of these fish, maybe still, or just an easier way for us to look at those fish close. Ooh, this is a really good photo. Okay, so now we're going to put those observation skills to the test. Let's look carefully at this fish, and let's see what we notice. Okay, let's see what we can notice about this kind of fish. Well, first of all, I noticed that there's a lot of them, right? So it looks like this is a kind of fish that likes to be in a group or a school. I wonder why. I wonder why a fish would want to live in a big group. That's actually a good science question. We'll think about it together. If you were a fish, right, and this is a pretty open habitat, right? Yes, there's grass on the bottom, but most of the ocean is, I can see lots of just empty water. Would you feel safe just swimming all by yourself as a little fish? Maybe not so much, right? Maybe you'd be worried about a predator coming to eat you. Well, that's why fish might want to be in a big group, right? So these surf perch, and there's lots of different species of surf perch, but you can find a lot of them in eelgrass beds. Right? They're going to group together because sometimes being in a group is more safe, right? You can stay together, and if a predator comes, you can kind of all swim away together, and there's less of a chance that you might get eaten by a predator. Right? Just like it might be safer for you to walk in a group, right, than to be all by yourself. Right? So that's actually a really cool adaptation that these fish have, is that they know how to live in a group. Okay, we noticed that. Let me focus on maybe one individual fish. I noticed that their body is really shiny. It's like a shiny silver color. And it's a little hard to tell, but also I think I can look at this one right here. They kind of have like little stripes, right? They have these little yellow stripes. And so all of them have this kind of reflective, shiny color and these stripes on their body. So I know it's hard to imagine, but if you had a lot of these fish together in the ocean where the sun is shining down, having all of these shimmering, shiny fish would be pretty confusing for a predator, right? So let me step off and we can actually watch this little clip. And you can see that So you can see that as the light hits the fish, right, they all are kind of reflecting and shimmering. And so it's hard for a predator to kind of tell where one fish starts and another one ends, right? And also stripes can do that as well, especially in a habitat like an eelgrass bed, right, where you have lots of thin strips of grass growing, right? Having a stripy body can help you blend in, right? It's kind of like a zebra, right? A zebra on land. They live in a grassland, right? And lots of animals that live in grasslands have those stripes, and that can kind of confuse predators, right? Of where exactly one animal starts and the next one, or where one animal starts and maybe where the next one is, right? And so that's an example of another adaptation, right? Or a special thing an animal has on its body or an animal does to help it survive in its habitat. Right, we're going to use that word a lot today. So every time you notice something on an animal, right, and maybe it could help that animal survive, there's a good chance that that is an adaptation that you just noticed. It's a great job noticing those adaptations on the surf perch. Okay, so this is a fish that is, going to swim in groups. It has that interesting coloring. And I know it's hard to tell here, but if the fish was to turn to you, it is actually very flat. Let's see. Let me see if I have a little kind of model for us, right? This is not a surf perch, but you're seeing the fish on the side, but if the fish turns to you, notice how flat it is? And a lot of fish are like this, right? Why would its body be flattened like kind of like a disc this way? Well, if you think about it, right, remember that video of the exhibit? It was moving side to side, right? That eelgrass was swaying. So that water is moving back and forth. Having a nice thin body, right, or what's called a compressed body shape, is going to help you cut through the water, right? It kind of streamlines your body so that you can navigate through a lot of waves, right? Whereas if this fish was maybe rounder and chunkier, right, it would be kind of hard for it to get through those waves. So even the shape of this animal's body helps it survive. So even that counts as an adaptation. Okay, let's add that fish to our habitat. And we're going to be talking about a different kind of fish in just a moment. And so I want you to remember some of those adaptations that we explored. So let's see. I don't have a silver color marker, so I'm going to use a black one. But let's put some schools of surf perch. So they were kind of like a little lemon shape or football shape. And they had a little tail, eye, and they had lots of like yellow stripes. Okay, so I'm going to add a couple of them so that it can be nice and safe with its friends. So go ahead and add as many surf perch as you want. I should probably give them some gills. That one's going to be the leader, I think. Okay, and I can't forget its stripes so that it can confuse predators. Oops, this one needs a little tail. And I'm going to label these ones. This is called the surf perch. Awesome, we just added a school of surf perch. Our eelgrass bed is really shaping up, but we have a lot more to add, right? Because there's actually lots of diversity in this habitat. Okay, let's compare the surf perch to a different fish. So we're back to the sandy bottom. And actually, maybe you're wondering, what? Why did Tiffany put up an empty video? There's nothing in this. Well, I want you to look again. This is a challenge for your observation skills. Can you find the animal? Oh, we zoomed in, so we made it a little more easy. Oh, maybe you notice it's moving. Yes, right here. Right, that is, oh, it's swimming away. I got a little scared when I came by. But this fish, right, is a flat fish, right? And so it's very different from the surf perch, right? It's not swimming around in the water, right? It's laying on the bottom. Honestly, I think if I was a fish, I probably would want to be a flat fish. I just want to hang out on the bottom. But it lays on the bottom and it really blends in. Do you remember that fancy science word for if an animal can blend into its habitat? It starts with the letter C. So it's camouflaging. That's right. Right? So a surf perch can camouflage with that sandy bottom because if you look at its skin, it has all of these speckles, right? Light parts, dark parts. It really does look like sand. And also when you notice when it swam away, it's almost a little wave, right? It kind of ripples through the water instead of swimming kind of straight on like the surf perch did. So very, very different adaptations. That's why I love learning about the ocean so much, is there's just so many different kinds of animals that have special adaptations. So this one is flattened. Can you think about why you might want to be a flattened fish laying on the bottom, aside from it being probably really comfy? Well, notice also this fish is all by itself, right? It's not with a school of friends. So how does it stay safe? If you're thinking that maybe laying on the bottom, right, staying low key and kind of matching the seafloor is a way to stay safe, you're right, right? So this is another way that you can stay safe, right? So you don't need to be in a big group if you just blend in and nobody even notices you, right? Which is kind of a fun technique. And the amazing thing is if you see, both of its eyes are on the top side of its body. Flatfish are really cool. They have what's called a blind side. So the underside of this fish is really pale, right? Because it's just facing the seafloor. And when flatfish are born, they're just like a normal fish. They have one eye on each side. But as it grows up and the fish lays on the bottom, the eye will move over to the side that is facing the top. So it can really see what's going on. Because if a predator does notice it, it's got to swim away. So that's a really cool adaptation. Okay, let's go ahead and add, ooh, this is a great little picture of a juvenile flatfish, right? And you can just barely see where its eyes are, right? So as a juvenile flatfish grows up, its eyes will migrate from the backside to the front. It's really, really cool. Flatfish are just amazing to me. Okay, let's go ahead and add a flatfish to our eelgrass bed. So we're not going to put it in the middle, right, where the water is. It's going to be laying on the ground. So let me clear a little area for my flatfish. And it was quite a bit bigger than the little surf perch. I'm going to kind of draw the lines where its little side fin was. And it had a kind of a round tail. I'm going to make sure that I give it 2 eyes. I'm going to use black so that we can really see. Oh my gosh, it looks so silly. And then I'm going to give it some speckles. There's our flatfish. Oh, I love it so much. Okay, let me go ahead and label our flatfish. I love that we got to compare 2 different kinds of fish, right? So we can really notice different ways that animals can survive in the same habitat. Awesome. Go ahead and add your flatfish and label it if you would like to. But our habitat's really starting to fill up. Let's see. I would like us to explore another animal. This one's a little more maybe popular, right? You might really like this ocean animal. But it's one that's going to be swimming a little bit more in the open water. I know that it's one of Tiffany's favorites. Oh my gosh, there it is. Right, so maybe you know what this animal is. It's the sea turtle, right? And specifically, this kind of sea turtle is called a green sea turtle. And we'll see if we can figure out why in just a moment. But let's take a minute and let's make some observations about the green sea turtle. Right, so once again, we're noticing and then we're thinking. So what can you notice? And what do you think it means? Well, I noticed that this turtle has a nice big hard shell, right? It's got that kind of brown shell on the back. So can we think about what that shell is for? Right? This is what it means to do science, right? Notice and think. Well, I think that maybe a shell is to help protect it, right? So this one's not swimming with friends. It's not in a school to stay safe. It's not blending in with the seafloor, so it's got to have a different way to stay safe. I think that having a hard shell can protect you because if a predator comes and tries to bite you, it's probably going to hurt its teeth because that is a really hard protective shell. It's basically like a shield that this turtle is wearing on its back. So that's another example of an adaptation, right? A way to survive in their habitat. Okay, so sea turtles are really cool because they have that built-in shield. I also noticed that, ooh, this is a great picture of one. Look at kind of what would be maybe its arms and its legs, right? So if you think about maybe a land turtle, right, it's kind of, front arms and legs. You could really see like its little nails, and you can kind of see how it looks like a little reptile. But sea turtles, right, those arms and legs have transformed into flippers, right? So everybody, I want you to take your little arms and legs and turn them into little flippers and paddle with them instead. right? And of course that would be helpful in the ocean because you got to push through the water, right? Having little claws is not really helpful because you're not really grabbing onto anything. But actually, that observation makes me think of another question. If a sea turtle has flippers, right, so all it can really do is paddle, how does it get its food? How is it going to grab its food? Or maybe better yet, what does it even eat? Okay, well, let's look at the face of this green sea turtle and let's see if we can figure it out. So let's look carefully at its mouth. Do you see any teeth? Like big teeth for biting things? I don't really see any teeth. Honestly, its mouth looks kind of like a bird's beak, right? It looks like a beak, right? If you go like this, you can kind of imagine. So really, it's not going to be able to bite or rip things, right? It kind of has a beak maybe more for tearing. Let's go back to a clip or video of the eelgrass bed. What could the sea turtle be tearing or pulling up in this habitat? I don't think that it could catch a fish with that mouth. So if you're thinking that it's going to tear up the grass, you are exactly right. So the sea turtle's mouth or beak is an adaptation, right? You can see it really well right here. It's adapted to tear up plants, right? It eats the eelgrass. And remember, that eelgrass was bright green. Oh, this is a great video. Let's watch it. Oh, look at it go. I'm salivating. I don't know why, but this sea turtle makes it look really yummy. And I don't even like vegetables that much, but it looks so happy to be tearing up that eelgrass. Oh, that is amazing. What a cool adaptation. Well, eelgrass is bright green, and actually green sea turtles eat so much of it that the fat in their body is green colored. That's why they're called green sea turtles. Isn't that amazing? Right? Scientists are honestly sometimes really funny when they name animals because they are spot on. Right? It eats so much eelgrass that its own fat in its body turns green. So let's go ahead and add a green sea turtle to our habitat to really complete it. Notice I left a nice space up here for the sea turtle. Okay, so I'm going to give my sea turtle a shell. It kind of was shaped like an almond, so kind of like a teardrop on its side. Pointy on one end and round on the other. And then I'm going to use black for its face. And don't forget to give your sea turtle a nice pointy beak and a nice big eye. My sea turtle looks like it's smiling. And then I'm going to give it some nice big flippers, right, which are modified arms and legs, so that it can swim and cruise through the eelgrass beds. I'm going to give it a tiny tail. Oh, and then I want to give my sea turtle some kind of designs on its body because they are reptiles, so they do have scales. They're just kind of modified from what you might recognize as scales on like a lizard you would find on land. And then the most beautiful part, I think, of the green sea turtle is its beautiful shell pattern. So I'm going to do my best to kind of give it a cool pattern on its shell. And of course, you can make yours look however you'd like. Look at that. And you know what? Just because I want to, I'm going to give them a mouthful of eelgrass. And let's go ahead and label our green sea turtle. Wow, that really made our habitat look super complete. And it was awesome to explore all the different animals that live in this habitat because eelgrass beds are really amazing homes for lots of different kinds of animals. Right, and I do want to wrap up the program with talking a little bit about why they're so important. Well, just like plants on land, eelgrass, right, they photosynthesize and they use carbon dioxide, which is a gas that you can find in the water and in the air, right? They capture that, right, and they store it in their own blades and they release oxygen. So this is a habitat that is making oxygen for us to breathe, right, and for the ocean animals to breathe as well. So they help capture carbon dioxide. But another interesting thing is, remember the eelgrass, right, is found in places with a sandy bottom. They actually help keep the sand where it is. That's why I had us draw those roots, right? Because that root system holds down the sand, because otherwise, when a wave came by, a lot of that sand would get blown around. So eelgrass is really important because it anchors the sand in place. And if you like going to the beach, especially here along the Pacific coast, right, you probably have eelgrass to thank, right? It's helping to hold down those coastlines so that we can still enjoy the sand that's there and it doesn't all get washed out into the ocean. So they capture carbon dioxide, they help hold down the sand, right, and prevent erosion. And another thing is that really they provide a home for lots of different animals, right? We didn't talk about it today, but they serve as a nursery. So lots of fish and small animals like to grow up in eelgrass beds because it's a really good hiding place, right? So if you care about any of those animals we learned about today, then you also care about eelgrass beds, right? But thank you so much for learning with me today. You all did a really great job. We have programs regularly, so please check out our website and you can always tune in live. But I had so much fun learning with you. Have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.